Welcome back, soldiers. It's another week. This is week 2 of our training. I'm just been taking notes on this little thing all week. Beautiful little Write in the Rain notepad.
Little guy over here is creeping on me, and he's just kind of running around. He's trying to act aloof, like he doesn't see me or anything. Like he's begging for something. I don't know who he is or where he came from. He looks really mangy, actually. Looks like he's like waiting for me to get him something. But apparently this guy just walks around the whole base. He just kind of chills out around here.
So, beginning of our week, we just had Memorial Day. It was Monday. It was the end of a long weekend. I think we just about did everything we could over the weekend. Yeah, it was nice. We tried going on a hike that was very uneventful because there's nowhere to hike out here. And the best place to hike is just kind of a short walk. So there's no hiking, there's no exploring. I'm kind of an outdoorsy person coming from Utah. There's a lot of hikes out there, lots of rock climbing, and there's nothing out here, which is depressing. Went and got some good barbecue. There's a good place around here called Pig Pen, and you can go and get yourself a grilled cheese and brisket sandwich. Highly recommended. Everybody who's tried it really likes it. I did my run right before, like my pre-run, right a couple days before the PT test, just to get myself primed. I did my 30-60s. Even though I wasn't feeling so good, I still did it. We decided to go to Grunt Style, the military clothing, well, they're not military, they're veteran clothing company, because they were having a Memorial Day service. They gave out free drinks and free food. But we showed up at 7:30 and we were kind of waiting. There wasn't anybody directing anything. You just kind of show up. Nobody really, I don't know. Maybe if we'd stuck around a little bit longer, we would have seen something. I know there were some Marines there. They were doing a fabulous flag ceremony eventually. We just didn't stick around for very long for that because it didn't seem like much was going on. But yeah, San Antonio is a military town, so lots of people were out and about and celebrating and actually commemorating the soldiers and all the servicemen and women that have died for this country. So that was good. After that, we just kind of moseyed on over to the Pearl, which is a brewery in kind of an older industrial district that's been adapted to brewery, food, drinks, kind of a nice place, and lots of performers show up there to do their gigs and whatnot. And we just kind of took it easy Memorial Day because we finished doing everything else Friday, Saturday. Day 2. We did our height and weight finally, so that was day 2 of week 2. We finally did our height and weight. They do that right before the PT test. Great thing about that is that after you do height and weight, you don't have to go to PT. You just go straight back to the barracks. So you get a little bit of an early breakfast that morning. We finished the last class that we started on Friday, and there was a lot of sitting and waiting. What did we even do Friday? Oh, that was the math day that we did a bunch of equations. So we finished all of that. We just basically did the same thing all over again. And then we had to wait for the time to leave. And we tested, and everybody passed. I think maybe that was... Yeah. Okay, so... I wrote a little note to myself that day because I wanted to know what the minimums were for the PT test. I was feeling a little sluggish. I don't normally worry about PT tests, but just a heads up, you have to be able to do 60% in each of the events for the PT test to be able to pass the PT. If you don't pass the PT test currently, it might change, but currently they're making people do remedial Tuesdays and Thursdays and Saturday mornings, and you have to show up at 05. So it's well worth it to just pass your PT test. So before you show up, do some preparation. And so this was the night before the PT test. I just got back to the barracks and I slept at 20:30. Day 3, we had a 03 wake up for the PT test. At 04, we took our PT test. We fought sleeping in class. That was very hard for just about everybody. How are you supposed to not doze off in class when you have a 03 wake up? We got food to go from the DFAC. If you go to the Rocco, you can get some food to go. That's a good pro tip. And sometimes they give you enough time. Normal lunch is from 11:30 to 12:45. Oftentimes they'll release you at 11:30, sometimes a little bit before if there's not enough time to do any instruction, and then they'll ask you to come back at 1300 because there is a lot of time that is just time filled because they can't release you until 4:30. They can't release you until half an hour before the duty day is supposed to end. So that's why they try to fill time with just lots of tedious work and sitting around and getting things checked. Yeah. The class manual made absolutely no sense that day. It was poorly written and compiled. Mostly that's what we have is poorly written manuals, and it's hard to follow and it's really dry and not very much fun, and sometimes the instructors don't make it very fun either. Too many big words, confusing grammar, no logical organization. Sometimes they put acronyms before they even define what the acronym is, and you're kind of wondering what the acronym is supposed to be. They desperately need good technical writers, so if anybody is looking for a job, the Army's not hiring because they only hire bad technical writers. So go find a job somewhere else. And I wanted tacos. Really desperately wanted tacos. Okay, so day 4, we just did stuff on the computer in the medical logistics system that is going to be phased out, I think. We're going to be using a different system, but we were doing stuff in there, logging all sorts of things and searching for things in catalogs. It was very slow going because every time we made a step forward, they would stop everything and go check everybody's computer, make sure everybody was on the same page, and then they would go to the next step. It was like, click to open, and then they checked everything. And then it was like, okay, click to go to this screen, and then they checked everything. It was very slow. But they said that we did it faster than what's normal, which scares me. Just a lot of attention to detail. I know it's dry, but you have to pay attention to the detail of everything. So one practice I'm going to start doing is when they give me instructions, I'm going to write down the instructions beforehand because you're going to get engrossed in the activity and you're going to forget about what they asked you to do. So maybe take notes because they're going to hold you accountable for the things that you forgot about. And they're going to say, weren't you listening? You should just pay attention. And you were paying attention, but you forgot it because you were so focused on getting the stuff done that you forgot the instructions. So, yeah, there's an exercise in the book. It said it was allotted 2 hours to complete, and it did not take 2 hours to complete. It took 20 minutes to complete, and then it took 40 more minutes to wait for everybody to get checked, and maybe a little longer than that. It was a very long day. We'll just say that. And then they said, this is going to be great because you're going to come back tomorrow and you're going to do more. So day 5, I looked again in the manual and found out that they can't get the page numbers right. They messed that up. Instead of 73 pages, it was 84. Again, I said severely need good technical writers. That's what they need, but it's probably not what they're going to get ever. It's the Army, folks. Day 5, we did the exercises again that took 20 minutes to complete, and waited and sat around. We spent the rest of the time with the instructors checking everybody's work. And then the fun began with finance. Our finance adventure is something I was not looking forward to as of day one. They were told that they didn't receive our paperwork that we turned in processing. So, yeah. Don't fill out your SGLI if you don't want them to touch your SGLI. They'll probably mess it up. And they're going to lose your orders anyway. They're going to lose your packet, and they're going to tell you that you weren't at the briefing that you just attended. And then you have to get some orders and take them to the S1 at the company. But you have to talk to him at times that you're normally in class, and he's gone during chow time, and so there's really no good time to go talk to the S1. This is what we've got here. I don't know if you can see this. We've got this little, I made this little diagram just for how finance works at Fort Sam. So finance at Fort Sam, first thing you're supposed to do, if you go to finance, they're going to tell you to bug off and go talk to your drill sergeant. You're going to talk to your drill sergeant, who's going to say, I'm not finance, and he's going to send you to the S1. The S1 is going to attempt to help you, I think. They seem pretty nice. I haven't really spoken to the S1 yet. They're going to try to help you, and they're going to send you to finance. And then they're going to keep asking you for paperwork that you don't actually need to do finance, but they're not going to ask for it all at once. They're going to ask for one piece of paper, then they're going to send you back. Then you're going to come back with it. They're going to ask you for another piece of paper. This is based on experiences of other soldiers that have been here for months. And so basically nobody gets their finances squared away while they're here at Fort Sam. So the only reason to really go through this process is so that you can check the box and go tell your unit that you did your due diligence. That's the reason why you do this. It's a charade, it's a dog and pony show, it's a circus. So then from that, you just fix your finance after you return home. And that's finance. That's how you do it. If I get any more updates this week, maybe it works out for us, maybe it doesn't. But what I've been hearing is that 50% of people get their finances squared away here, 50% they don't. So make sure you have money in savings. If you have bills to pay, make sure you have an emergency fund, because you may not be receiving pay while you're here. So day 6, we had our weekend. Thank goodness. I would say to check out the Pearl over the Riverwalk. I mean, the Riverwalk, I don't know if it's a must-see, but there's lots of people there, and it's very much a kind of a dirty city area because there's lots of trash and some bums, but not as much as I expected. It was actually fairly clean, and but the Pearl I found has less people and better places for food, kind of a nicer atmosphere just because it's not as crowded. But it depends on what you like. If there's something at the Riverwalk that you absolutely want to go to, then go do it. If you're a history nerd and you want to see the Alamo, it's tiny and it's probably not worth the $60 you have to pay to go through it. But if that's what you're into, okay. And there's Ben & Jerry's ice cream, there's Ghirardelli ice cream, there's a lot of places to go get drinks. It just all depends on what you want, really. So if what you want is at the Riverwalk, go check out the Riverwalk. If it's not, anything at the Pearl is going to be amazing. You're going to be satisfied. I wrote that Fort Sam is a great place to get your swole on because there's really not a whole lot to do besides doing schoolwork, and you don't really need to put a whole lot of effort into schoolwork as a Juliet. They don't have take-home homework. You mainly just look through your manual and go to class, and that's it. So wonderful place to just keep going to the gym. Go to the Jimmy Broughton gym. That's the best gym on post, and that's the only one that you could really go to as prior service. You're not allowed to be around the IET soldiers. That's considered fraternization. I had my first ACG shift. It's basically a CQ shift, if you've heard of that before. And they're very random with their picking. They may give you many shifts or they may give you 0 shifts. It just depends. And even though there's over 700 soldiers in these barracks, you still get multiple shifts. I got 2 for this whole month, and some people get 3 every single month. But it just doesn't add up. You should only have to do maybe 1 every 2 months or 1 every month. It just doesn't add up. Anyway, so on weekdays it's 2-hour shifts, on weekends it's 4-hour shifts, and I just sat and watched Netflix and Hulu and talked to the guy sitting across from me, also on ACG shift, just to pass the time. Took a little snooze before, slept a little bit after. I was good for the weekend, and went out and had fun at the Pearl. That's it. That's all I have for this week. That's just what happened, and that's probably a little bit of what to expect. There's a little bit of choose your own adventure involved in this, and if you're reserves or you're National Guard, then it depends on the finance and it depends on your experience. So National Guard, it actually might be easier to get your finances in order. Lucky you. And probably active duty as well. And but we don't have anybody active, so I can't speak to that. But the reserves, definitely, they don't get treated very well by finance. Have a great Army week. Watch some of my other videos that I've done, the first 24 hours, week 1. Like, comment, ask me questions that you would like to be put into more videos in the future, and please subscribe.
I don't know why I left. I don't know why I left. But I must have done wrong. And it won't be long. Till I get on back home.